everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. This week on my Facebook Live I made a double angled gatefold card, and I had tried to make this a couple of months ago even, and the measurements I had, I didn't quite like how it turned out, so I've tweaked a few little measurements and played about with it a bit, and I'm happy with the size and the shape now. Okay, so this is my card. This was a little offcut that we had from making these angle folds, and I thought I would put the paper on the inside, and one of my ladies on Facebook Live said back it with the cardstock as well, so I did, and I think that looks so pretty. I even put one on the envelope to make it look like a little matching set. And this is the paper from the Framed Florets, and a die from there, the stamps from there, and this is another paper. I didn't stamp and colour this, it was one of the designer series papers. And that set, oops, not that piece, but this piece, the Framed Florets and the matching dies are carrying over until the January to April catalogue. So this will be in the new catalogue as well. If you order at the moment, you can get the matching paper, but that's only while stocks last, and we don't know quite how long it will last. And you can also get this set, and I'm using this for my Christmas cards, and I'm going to make the angled fold into a Christmas card today. I've only just opened it. I've got this stamp ready, but it's a red rubber stamp set. As you can see, I haven't used any of the others. I'm only going to use this one today. So let me show you how we make it. There's a little bit of cutting and a little bit of measuring, but once you've made one, it's so simple. I'm using Evening Evergreen for my base, and it's a full sheet at 8.5 by 11. I'm going to trim it down to 11 by 5.5. I will put all the measurements on my blog because there are quite a lot of measurements for this. Now we're going to score those folding sides. So we're going to score at the left hand side at 3 3/8. If you don't use imperial, how you measure eighths is each of these lines is a 16th. So the second line would be an 1/8, the fourth line would be 2/8, and the sixth line would be 3/8. So it's the last or the longest line before you get to 4.5. If that makes sense. So I'm going to move my blade out of the way. So that's 3 3/8. I'm going to turn the whole thing round and do the other side the same. So 1, 2, 3/8. Score. Now we're going to do some measuring before we cut. So this is our basic card. I'm going to turn it over because I like these little score marks to be valley fold when I fold it. So I'm just going to fold it over or turn it over, and I'm going to do the measuring. Now we're going to measure down the left hand side and down the right hand side at 1 3/4 inches. If you have grid paper like I have, you can just measure along 7 little boxes, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and that will give you 1 3/4 inches. If you don't have this grid paper and you're using a ruler, it's exactly the same. You just line it up, and we're going to put a little pencil mark at 1 3/4. It's a little bit tricky to see on the darker colour card. Okay, so now we're going to measure across the bottom at 1 inch. So again, if you've got the grid paper, you just go across 4 little boxes. If you're measuring with a ruler, oops, let me just make that straight. If you're measuring with a ruler, we're just measuring at 1 inch. Okay, and we can erase those little marks at the end. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut from this first score line down to the 1 3/4 mark, and then from the 1 3/4 mark down to the 1 inch mark. And it gives us a shape like this. If you've got one cut, you can just pop this on your card base, and you can draw lines, make your marks much easier. So once you've done it once, it makes it really quick and easy. I'm going to put the score line in the track. This is the cutting track, so I'm putting the score line in there, and I'm going to that first mark at 1 3/4. You might have to move it down your paper trimmer a little bit so that you can get all of it in without this corner getting bent. Okay, so I've got my 1 3/4 mark in the track, and I've now got my score line in the track. I'm going to put my blade into the middle, just so that when I cut, it doesn't bend the corners. Keep this little piece. Now I'm going to go again from that mark down to that 1 inch mark that we made. So I'm popping the 1 inch mark in the track, and then I've got it so that this corner is right in the cutting track as well. And again, put your blade in the middle, and that's that whole side cut. We're going to do exactly the same at the right hand side. So I've got my fold or my score line here. I'm finding my 1 3/4 inch mark. Put my blade in the middle. Go back to this corner. Find that 1 inch mark across the bottom. Pop it in the track. Oops, I just moved it slightly. Let me pop that back, as otherwise it won't make the right angle. Put my blade in the middle. There we go. So that's now the whole base done. I'm just going to fold it over, and I'm going to go down with my bone folder just to make it nice and straight. Now you can see I cut heavy-handed. I always end up with that little ridge where I've cut, so I tend to go over that with my bone folder. Sometimes this is on the inside and you can't even tell, but I just like to make sure that I've gone over those edges. Now our card is going to wrap over like a little jacket, and you can have the jacket closing at the left or the right, whichever way you want. I've already cut some designer series paper, and this is 3 1/8 by 5 1/4. And I've got a striped piece and a floral piece. And I should have shown you, it's from this Boughs of Holly paper set. I don't have the stamps or anything. I wish I did, but I didn't buy them. So I only got the paper. So I've chosen this pattern with the lots of poinsettias on and the striped pattern. And I'm also using this piece to cut out the floral images. And I've already cut a few. And let's see, where does that one go? Oh, where does that one fit? There. I didn't cut out all of these berries. I tried on the first piece and I didn't like just how it looked. I thought it was a little bit flimsy and it might get torn really easily. So I chopped the berries off, but nobody will know. So I've cut 2 different ones because I'm not quite sure which one I want. But it's really good for, for cutting out little images and not having to stamp. Let's take that out of the way. And I need to do some more measuring. So these pieces measure 3 1/8 by 5 1/4, so 3 1/8 across. If you've got a directional paper, like this stripy one, I want the stripes to go up and down. So I've made the short side at the top, and your pattern needs to run down the length of the paper. Okay, I'm going to make some marks on this. This piece, I'm thinking that I would like it to go at the right hand side. On my cards that I made for Facebook Live, I had it so that my plainer piece was on the right hand side and my busy piece was on the left hand side. But I'm just going to change it up and make it go a different way. So this will go on here and this piece is going to go here. So I need to do the measurements. It's a little bit tricky to see because I've chosen a busy paper. But we're going to do the same kind of measurements that we did on the base. So we're going to make a mark down this side, but instead of 1 3/4, we're going to do 1 5/8. So I'm going to line it up here, get my ruler, whoops, let's put it nice and straight, get my ruler and line my ruler up, and then 1 inch. We know that halfway across is going to be 4/8, so it's going to be the next long line. Okay, so that's 1 5/8. I don't think that matters if it's that way. You know what? I'm just going to turn the paper the other way around. Let's just erase that. Because I think I like that orientation just for that poinsettia there. So I'm going to go down this side from the top 1 5/8. I really don't think it matters too much. I just like where that one poinsettia is. I'd like it to be looking the right way. So 4/8, 5/8. Okay, so that's on the left hand side, 1 5/8. And then across the bottom, we're going to do a mark at 1 inch. You can use your ruler or use the little grid paper again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, as we cut this, it's going to fit here. So we know that this angle is going to go across here, and it will fit like that. My striped piece is going to run the other way. So I'm turning it over. So this is for the right hand side, facing the correct way. And our front piece, you will see the correct one when you turn the whole thing over. So top piece is looking the right way. This piece is looking the wrong way. We can only see it when we turn it over. So the two wrong sides are facing each other inside. If you're not quite sure, try it on a couple of pieces of paper, and then what I did was I had a template showing me top, bottom, or however I wanted it to be. But this will go top, underneath, underneath, top. Sounds a little bit complicated, but I promise you it's not. Once you've seen me cut it, you'll get to understand what I'm saying. So these are 3 1/8 by 5 1/4. Wasn't sure if I'd said. And I'm going to line up both pieces together. I'm not going to cut them separately. I'm going to line up that little pencil mark that I made with this corner. So I'm going to put that one in the little track first. Oh, just let me make it straight again. There we go. So I'm going to put the pencil in the track first and then move this corner piece round so that they're both in the track. I'm going to put my blade in the middle, save my two little pieces. Now I'm going from that corner down to that 1 inch mark. So let's put the pencil mark in the track and then that corner. There we go, put my blade in the middle. There we go. So now we have our pieces. Let's get our base. So this, I said I wanted it to go at the right hand side. So that is going to fit here on the right. And then this piece, remember we said it's going to be upside down. So the piece that we need is on the back. When you turn it over, there it will be, looking the right way and giving you that nice little border all the way around. Okay? If you wanted, you could certainly put it this way, or you could have your busier piece on the left-hand side. But just for this card, I wanted to change it up just a tiny bit. So I've got my adhesive. I'm using my Stampin' Seal, but you could also use a liquid glue. And that would give you actually a little bit more time if you haven't got it quite straight. But I'm going to pop it right on here. You'll have that nice border all the way around. The only thing you have to check is the border that you do on the bottom with this piece. It has to be exactly the same on the front piece. Otherwise it's quite noticeable that one's up a little bit further than the other. Okay, I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of this, as this is the side we don't want to see. There we go. Close this up, and I'm actually going to put it on and line up this piece from the bottom. just so that I know it matches. There we go. Let me just going to move that slightly. I've just got that a little bit bent there. So let me just move that slightly. There we go. That's better. I just had it a little bit bent at the top there. Now, when you make these, sometimes you might find that one of the papers will run off a tiny bit, and that's just because of where you made your pencil mark on your base. Sometimes it's just a millimetre off, but not to worry. Okay, so here's our base already made. I need a piece to go on the inside, and I've cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. I'm not going to stamp on it, but you could certainly do another sentiment for the inside. I'm going to put some of those scrap pieces that we had. Let's make sure that's right in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to take one of those green triangles that we cut from here, from the top. Pop that one on already. And I'll do the same again with my card's envelope, like I did with the blue one. Okay, and then I'm choosing one of these pieces as well. So I can choose the striped piece. Let me find my others. I could choose even the back of this if you wanted. Let me just see, just with the dots. But I like the same papers that I had on the front. So I'm going to choose, let me just see. You could have made it go this way too. Oh, that's nice, look. Oh, isn't that pretty? Oh, let me just see. If we put that one on there as well, and then it would cross over in the same way. Oh, that is so pretty. Can I get that to go that way? Yeah, I'm going to do that. Just gives you that same crossover pattern that we've got on the front. But, you know, you only really need to either put like a little flower, or you could cut another one of these out and just have on the inside. But I do like the look of that wrapped over 2 pieces. It won't leave me enough to do the envelope in these wider triangles, but I can certainly use the narrower triangles on the envelopes. Let me just get that one. So, oops, where did that go? Here we go. See, so I could put the narrower one onto my envelope. Okay, let's pop this little red one in. Oh, that's so pretty. And a total accident. I think a lot of the best stamping things are accidents. When we experiment or find that we need to change something and we've got little bits left over. I love using scraps and finding different ways to use my cardstock and my designer series paper. Oh, isn't that pretty inside? I do like that. Okay, so that's the base of our card already made. What I'm going to use now is I'm going to use this die, and it will cut. You get a frame and a separate oval. I don't want to use the frame this time. I'll save that for another card. I am going to use the oval. And I've also already cut this sprig. I've got one in Evening Evergreen, I've got one in gold, and I've got one in white, just from my scraps box. So let's pop that back in case I end up dropping it on the floor or losing it somewhere. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Evening Evergreen. And I want it to be sort of at the right hand side and towards the bottom, so that I've got room for my my image as well. I've got too much ink on that, so I'm just going to, I don't want to have this little bit around the edge, because if I press too hard, that'll end up on my die cut. And I'd only just this week inked up this actual ink pad, so it's a little bit juicy. So I must remember that I don't need it to stamp down quite so hard on it. So I'm just going to do it a little bit lighter. That's better. Okay, so at the right hand side, I'm just going to make sure that my S fits in and it looks fairly straight. It's difficult sometimes from this angle just to see if things are straight, but I try my best. It looks fairly straight. Yep, that works. Let's pop that over there. Now I'm going to need some dimensionals, and I don't quite know how this is going to fit on at the moment. So I don't know which of my flowers I'm using, and I cut two different sorts. I cut one with the 2 poinsettias and one with just the 1 poinsettia. So it just depends how it's going to fit and how much space I have. So I'm not sure about that because it's going to stick out over there. Let me try just the single one. Oh, I like that much better already. Okay, so I'm going to try that there. Let's see what it's like with a little gold sprig underneath. Or with the green sprig. That's a little bit tricky to see, that green one. Let's try the white one. Oh, not sure. I actually quite like that gold. It's just a little bit more festive, so I'm going to go with the gold. And I'm going to get my liquid glue, pop a little bit on the back. You know what I could do? I could already have this attached down. Let's pop some dimensionals on it, and then I'm not trying to glue it and it be in the wrong place. I'm only putting dimensionals over half because the little flap has to open, and if I put dimensionals all the way along, then I wouldn't be able to open it. Okay, so I'm going to pop it just over there, and before I squash it down, I'm just going to check I've got enough room. Let me just go over a little bit more. Just check I've got enough room. Yep, yep, okay. And you shouldn't be able to see any dimensionals here. Okay, I'm going to pop this one on, and I'm going to glue this down flat. It's already got some dimension from having this piece on dimensionals. I don't want a second layer, and I'm only going to glue towards the bottom. Oops, my glue's a bit dried up. Let's use the tape runner instead. I probably have to use just a little pin and poke a hole in that glue. I don't want it to be over the sentiment. There we go, that's better. Okay. And I'm going to pop a couple of the dimensionals underneath on these leaves. But before I do that, I want to put my little sprig in and see where that's going to fit. I don't need it quite as long as that, so I'm going to trim it down a tiny bit. Let's just trim this. There we go. Oh, I can't use my glue. I will use a glue dot, I think. Where's my glue dots? Pop a couple of glue dots on. And that will keep it just adhered down and give it a bigger sort of adhesive area. And then just come around a little bit. There we go. And then I'm just going to pop my dimensionals under there. I'm going to take my backing off. And then, let's see, I'm going to pop one under that leaf. Oops, came off on my finger. One under that leaf. Just take the backing off again. I'm sorry that this is such a long video. All right, let's move those out of the way. We don't need those. We don't need these anymore. But I am going to put just a few of these little gold gems on. This is from the Festive Pearls. So I'm just going to pop a couple of these ones on because I think they'll just go with that gold sprig that we put on. And then pop 3 on. And then I think I'll pop 1, 2 over this side and 1 over here. There we go. And that's it finished. I think that's lovely. I love this little idea here, but I think that's such an easy card to make once you've made one and you've got that template or the hang of how to cut and everything. I think that's so nice, and I love this designer series paper where we're only cutting out the images. Very pretty. So thank you so much for joining me. I will put all the measurements onto my blog and link the blog in with this YouTube video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Take care and have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you all again really soon. Bye-bye.